Toxic masculinity is a systemic problem that requires a holistic solution. It's a disease, and the cure is more complex than legal compliance or even behavior modification. You see, men need transformation, a heart change, and only God can change the human heart. There's a popular opinion that people are inherently good. And while there's obviously corruption and evil in the world, well, it's because some people have just made bad choices that are covering up their inner goodness. But did you know the Bible flips all that around? The Bible says that mankind is inherently sinful. And while there is obviously good in the world, well, it's just covering up a fundamental and fatal flaw with our heart. Jeremiah 17:9 says, "The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it?" The implication is that our heart problem is terminal. It's beyond cure, meaning we can't fix it ourselves. We can't self-correct. The manifestations of our human condition range from these relatively minor infractions to sometimes extreme destructive behaviors. Passing new legislation and tightening up HR policies are only band-aids. The cure for toxic masculinity requires an understanding that manhood became twisted and corrupt in the beginning, when the first man rebelled against God and His intended purpose. Romans 5:12 explains it this way. It says, "Sin entered the world through one man," that's Adam in the garden, "and death through sin. In this way, death came to all people, because all have sinned." But remember, we can't fix this, but God can. Romans 5:15 says, "If the many died by the trespass of the one man, how much more did God's grace and the gift that came by the grace of the one man, Jesus Christ, overflow to the many?" You see, God's grace changes us from the inside out. In Ezekiel 36:26, God Himself says this, "I will give you a new heart, and a new spirit I will put within you. I will remove the heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh." So God promises to perform this spiritual heart transplant when we respond to His grace. But this is much more than just rebranding and slapping a Christian label over the problem. You know, sadly, there have been too many cases of toxic masculinity from men wearing the Christian label in the church, leaving many people jaded and cynical. God's grace addresses the root of the problem, but we still live and contend in a broken world. And you see that in the church, but the way the church responds to brokenness should be different. To not excuse it or spin it or try and cover it up. And God's grace compels us to accept responsibility and respond with humility. The Bible compares and contrasts conventional manhood, really all of humanity, to what it calls the life-giving Spirit of Jesus. 1 Corinthians 15:45 through 49 explains, "The first man, Adam, became a living being. He was merely human. But the second Adam, that's Jesus, a life-giving spirit. The first man was from the earth, a man of dust. But the second man is from heaven. And just as we have borne the image of the man of dust, we shall also bear the image of the man of heaven." Now here's what that means. The DNA of toxic masculinity comes from the first man, Adam. He was merely human. He was a man of dust. Sadly, that's how a lot of guys excuse their behavior. Hey, I'm only human. Nobody's perfect. You know, boys will be boys. But the blessings of authentic manhood flow from the life-giving Spirit of Jesus. And if we If we have truly experienced the grace of God, then we are compelled to ask, is what I am doing or what I'm about to do, is it life-giving or life-robbing? Am I encouraging or demeaning? Am I living in the shadow of the first Adam or in the light of Jesus? And the Bible promises us that even though we have borne the image of the man of dust, that because of God's grace, we shall bear the image of the man of heaven, the life-giving Spirit of Jesus. The cure for toxic masculinity begins when we truly respond to God's grace through faith in Jesus.